How I stopped feeling overwhelmed as a new parent in just 1 week. The constant crying, the sleepless nights, the endless diaper changes, and that persistent voice in your head asking, "Am I doing this right?" I remember standing in my kitchen at 3 a.m., holding my screaming newborn, covered in spit up, wondering if I'd ever feel confident as a mother again. That was me 6 years ago. What if I told you the overwhelming chaos you're feeling right now isn't your permanent reality? The truth is, I transformed my experience in just 1 week using methods I'm about to share with you. I used to think being a good parent meant having everything under control all the time. I read every baby book, followed every schedule, and still felt like I was drowning. My house was a mess. I couldn't remember when I last showered, and I was convinced everyone else had this parenting thing figured out except me. Then one day, my grandmother called to check on me. I broke down crying, admitting how overwhelmed I felt. She said something that changed everything. "Child, you're trying to climb the mountain while carrying boulders that aren't yours to carry." That conversation sparked a realization. The overwhelming feelings weren't coming from my baby's needs. They were coming from impossible expectations I'd placed on myself. I was measuring myself against highlight reels of perfect parents on social media, advice from well-meaning relatives, and my own perfectionist tendencies. So I decided to try something radical. I gave myself 1 week to completely change my approach. Not by adding more tasks or buying more baby gadgets, but by intentionally letting go of what wasn't serving me. The first thing I released was comparison. Every time I caught myself scrolling through Instagram, seeing those perfectly filtered baby nurseries and thinking, "Why doesn't my home look like that?" I'd put the phone down and repeat, "Their journey is not my journey." I started limiting my social media to 15 minutes per day, using that extra time to simply breathe or enjoy my baby. Next, I dropped the rigid schedule. I'd been obsessively tracking every feeding, diaper change, and nap on an app, becoming increasingly anxious when we deviated from the perfect routine. Instead, I began following my baby's cues. Hungry? We'll feed. Tired? We'll nap. This simple shift from clock watching to baby watching immediately relieved so much pressure. The third boulder I released was the pressure to do everything alone. I realized I'd been saying, "I'm fine," when people offered help, because I thought accepting assistance meant I was failing. One of the most challenging, yet freeing, things I did that week was text 3 friends and say, "Actually, I'm not fine. Could you drop off a meal this week?" And you know what? They were delighted to help. When I worked with new parents during my nursing career, I noticed something fascinating. The parents who seemed most at peace weren't the ones with the most expensive baby gear or the cleanest homes. They were the ones who had embraced flexibility. One mother I'll never forget, Denise, had 4 children under 5 and radiated calm. When I asked her secret, she laughed and said, "I stopped shooting all over myself." I love that phrase, shooting all over myself. How many times have you thought, "I should be able to soothe my baby immediately. I should have lost the baby weight by now. I should be enjoying every moment of parenthood." These shoulds are the invisible weights making you feel overwhelmed. Here's another major shift I made. I started carving out micro moments of joy, not hour-long self-care sessions. That wasn't realistic, but I could find 30 seconds to step outside and feel the sun on my face while the baby napped. I could enjoy the scent of the lavender lotion as I rubbed it on my hands. These tiny moments became anchors in chaotic days. I also discovered the power of a good enough for today mindset. One day during that week, I looked at the mountain of laundry, and instead of feeling defeated, I simply said out loud, "This isn't the measure of my motherhood." I picked 5 items we needed most, washed those, and called it done. You know, the psychologist Donald Winnicott developed this beautiful concept of the good enough mother. After studying countless mother-child relationships, he concluded that perfect parenting isn't just impossible, it's not even desirable. Children benefit from parents who sometimes fail, then repair. It teaches resilience. The most profound change came when I started spending 5 minutes each night writing down one thing I did well that day as a parent. Not what I failed at, which my brain naturally cataloged, but something positive, however small. Today, I noticed my baby's new expression and really savored that moment. Today, I trusted my instincts instead of frantically Googling. These tiny acknowledgments rewired my thinking. By the end of that week, was my life perfect? Of course not. The baby still cried, sleep was still precious, and yes, there was still laundry, but the overwhelming feeling had lifted. I wasn't drowning anymore. I was floating, sometimes even swimming. The real freedom comes when you realize that feeling overwhelmed isn't a parenting failure. It's a signal that something needs to change. Usually not your baby, not your partner, but the expectations you've placed on yourself. What would happen if just for 1 week you decided to parent without the weight of perfection? What if you trusted yourself more and the baby books less? What if you measured success not by how much you accomplished, but by moments of connection with your child? You don't need to wait until your baby sleeps through the night or starts school or leaves for college to feel peace as a parent. You can choose peace today by releasing what's not serving you. I've created a free downloadable guide called the Overwhelmed to Overjoyed Framework with daily prompts and exercises that helped me during that transformative week. You'll find the link in the description below. It includes the exact questions I asked myself each day and practical tips for creating tiny moments of calm within the chaos. Remember, you're not just raising a baby, you're raising a parent too. And that parent, you, deserves grace, patience, and celebration for every step of this journey.